Hey guys, in this lesson we're going to be talking about conditions, conditional logic, and conditional operators, and in Forth. But first, check this out. This is forth-standard.org. This is one of the most active, I think, websites around Forth right now, and active kind of communities. And what it is, I'm not sure if this is related to the ANSI standard or if this is a separate standard. Doesn't say anything about ANSI, so I'm thinking it's just a separate, but it's a cool website. You can see that there's a contribution on February 6th to 2020, which is only 6-7 days ago. So it's, there's a lot of activity, which is good. It's a good place to see like the latest with Forth. Here's what they recommend as far as Forth systems. It's a pretty cool site. So you can look at the standard, which is basically like C has the ANSI C standard. I think 4 has the ANSI Forth standard too, or Forth, and then there's this Forth standard. I don't know if they're the same or not, but basically it's, if you're going to implement Forth, this is how your Forth should behave. These are the words that it should come with it. This is what it should do. This is what those words should do, how they should work, that kind of thing. And the proposals, that's, these are like the proposed changes to the standard. And then you can write your own proposals, or you can comment on proposals if you create an account. Then there's this link here that goes to a separate website, theforth.net. And this is actually a package manager and repository for Forth, as you can see there, which is, it's pretty cool. Like, there's lots of packages here. And that kind of defeats it kind of goes against the DIY nature of Forth, but then again, it can be really helpful. So, if it can be helpful, it's, maybe it's a good thing. So, I don't know, just something to check out. It's always fun to see an active community around something that's such a small language that hardly anybody knows about, So, all right, so let's get into conditions. So in Forth, how everything works on the stack. So let's put some numbers on the stack, just 4 and 3. If we look at the stack, yeah. 4 is the one on the lower, second from the top. 3 is on top of the stack. With conditional operators like less than or greater than or less than or equal to, the way it works is we would put this in. So this is less than. So it'll take the second value from the top, which is 4, and say is 4. So that goes on the left side of the less than 3. So basically, if you were to write it out, it would look like this. Like that. Now, if that's true, if 4 is less than 3, then it's going to put a -1 on the stack. But if it's false, which it is false, then it'll put a 0 on the stack. So there's no literal like true and false. There's no Booleans in Forth. It uses 0 as false and -1 as true. So let's take a look. We'll do less than. Is 4 less than 3? It should give us a 0, right? So it's going to take that 4 and 3 off the stack, and then it's going to put a 0 on the stack to say false. So that's pretty simple, as with everything in Forth. And another thing that's simple is how, maybe how you have equal, but sometimes you want to do a not equals, like that in other languages. In Forth, it's interesting how you do a not equals. Let's put those back on the stack. So you do equals, okay? So we got 0 on the top of the stack, and then you just invert it. And when it's inverted, it gives you -1, which means the opposite of true, or the opposite of false, which is true. So if you were to write that out, like write the whole thing out, it would look something like this. Equal invert. So that is basically how you would write 4 is not equal to 3. And that's going to say true, right? 4 not equal to 3 should be true because it's not equal to it, and -1 true. So with our conditional operators, we can do some conditional logic, which is, if-then statements, if-then, if-else. And the if statement, pretty much every language has that. Forth does too. With Forth, with the conditional logic and also with loops, as we'll see in a later lesson, they have to be used in a word. So you know how you define words with the colon and the semicolon? That's where you're going to use your if then or if else. So let's do just an easy, simple one here just for demonstration. So this isn't quite going to work right just yet, but it'll partly work. So let's see that. So what we have is we have our if, and that shows the start of the code. So if basically looks at the stack. If the top of the stack is 0, then it's false, and the code that's between the if and the then does not run. If it's true, then the code that's in between the if and the then does run. So that works the same way as any other language, right? If true, then execute the code. Otherwise, don't. So let's make that official, and let's put a -1 on the stack, and then we'll say, is it 0? And we should get, no, it's not. Let's put like a 5 on the stack. Is it 0? No, it's not. Let's put a 0 on the stack. Is it 0? Yeah. And it gives us nothing because we don't have, if it's false, then it just does nothing, right? Now, if we want it to do something when we give it something that's false, then we can do that with else. So let's no, it's not. And then we have our else. Yes, it is. And then we put our then. So the then goes at the very end. So if true, that, else, which since it's Boolean, the only other option is false, right? So if true, then that, else, that, and then that's the end of it. So let's do that. Okay, gave us our okay, so we define the word. So now if we give it, let's see what's on top of the stack. Nothing on the stack right now. Let's give it a 0. And then we'll say, is it 0? Yes, it is. And it took that. Yeah, it takes the 0 off. It takes whatever it's looking at off the stack. So 5. Is it 0? That's just a fun little function. So what you can do then, you can go like, way more in depth with this stuff, like is it 5? If equals, okay, so we're putting another 5 on the stack, and then we're comparing them. So yeah, let me write this, and then is it 5? Let me write this and then I'll explain it. Yes, it is. Else. No, it's not. All right. So what this is going to do, let me make sure it works here first. Oh, man. Oh, I see what I did, I think. Yeah, so we want, before our if, we want to do that's where you do the conditional logic. So, yeah, so we're going to put a 5 on the stack, and there's already a 5 on the stack. So there's two 5s. We're going to see if those two 5s are equal. If 5 equals 5, then it's true. Then this part runs. Otherwise, it's false, and this part runs. So what's going to happen is there's going to be a 5 on the stack. We're going to put a second 5 on the stack. Then the equals is going to, the conditional operator is going to take the two 5s off the stack. If they're equal, it's going to put a -1 on the stack. If they're not equal, it's going to put a 0 on the stack. And if there's a -1 on the stack, then it's going to say yes, it is. Otherwise, it's going to say, if there's a 0 on the stack, it's going to say no, it's not. So let's try it. So what do we have on the stack right now? Nothing. So we'll put a 5 on there, and then we'll say, is it 5? Yes, it is. Let's put a 4 on the stack. Oh, and let me show you the stack. So it gets cleared out because the conditional operator, takes the 5s off and makes them a -1. Then when the if reads that top value on the stack, that pops it off too. So the stack is empty by the end of that. So right now we have a 4 on the stack. Let's say, is it 5? No, it's not. And what do we have on the stack? Nothing now. And we can, so let's, yeah, so basically if you put a 4 and a 5 on the stack and then the equals, this is what you'll have, 0. So since it came to 0, it did the else, and no, it's not. So pretty simple, right? It's pretty awesome. And that's basically conditional logic in fourth. So in the next video, we'll play with some loops, and that's another fun thing, and it's super simple as with everything else. And then, at that point, that's all kinds of stuff you can do in fourth. So super fun. Thanks for watching. Peace out.